Hello, hello, everyone. It is the Smarten Up Show once again here on lamnetwork.tv. I am Darryl Weinberg.
And I'm Milena Weinberg. We
We're
are
married.
we're the Weinbergs, and sometimes we're called the Wine Bears.
Well, because we have the third little bear.
You have Mama Bear, Papa Bear, and we have he's not a baby anymore, a teenager bear. That's what we'll call it. So here at the Smart Knob Show, we discuss anything parenting, education, and just life, I guess. Life with families, life with children.
Mm-hmm.
And you can find us here at lamnetwork.tv, or we do have a Smart Knob YouTube channel. There is a School Pods Canada Facebook group that we have also started, which has kind of inspired us to start the show because we work with parents to provide solutions for education and just parenting. Like we do a lot of talking with parents, and so we hope to inspire in the show, and we share with you what we see is happening in our society and just our hot topics for parents and educators. And we try to keep you up to date and also provide solutions, suggestions,
Mm-hmm.
ideas, because, well, it seems like being a parent has become a complex thing, a complicated thing nowadays. Lots to
Well,
navigate.
parenting has always been complex because you're dealing with the raising of what starts out to be a helpless little thing that is dependent upon you forever. I mean, I remember when Yossi was born, he just lay there and he
That's how it all starts.
needed to be fed. I mean, you were carrying him. He couldn't even lift up his head. He's 14. Sometimes that's still a problem, but that's for different reasons. But when you have everything that's going on in the world today, now with the complexities and the attack against the family,
Yes.
parenting is extremely difficult. And if you don't, number one, have the right answers as to what to do, but also the right community to be able to help you out with.
And that's the important part,
Yeah,
yes.
it's very challenging, and a lot of parents are really struggling to find out what they should be doing.
Absolutely. And I think you really hit that right on. Is I think the reason it is tougher to raise children nowadays because, as we've spoken in many of our past shows, that and you just mentioned that there's attack on the family, there's
Mm-hmm.
attack on the community, even people coming together. Um, we've spoken in past shows the different reasons we're being divided and why is it so difficult for us to even find like-minded people to work with. And um, we've always been told, oh, it takes a village to raise a child, but the village is in trouble. The village is in trouble. So raising a child now, and between single parents and parents with health issues and just all kinds of dynamics, it is tough. And so um, and this is why we want to kind of talk on topics to help understand what is going on, how we solve things, how we understand. We've spoken about understanding our child's personality, understanding the people around us, and so I guess let's get into what we wanted to chat about today. So here in Canada, well, Ontario, but I think it's most of Canada and the U.S. We're experiencing a big heat wave.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it is June, but it's not quite summer
And
yet.
the water is empty here.
We've been drinking water like crazy, and so this is starting to make everybody think, especially the kids, it's summer. I get to be free and do things, and um, it's sometimes commercials make fun of how like when kids are coming out, and it's not a really good thing that they're doing, but when kids come out of school and the parents go, oh no, what shall we do with our children? And even like what is it, Staples or one of the office supplies places, when at the end of the summer comes and they start doing this commercial, it's the most wonderful
Wonderful
time.
time of the year.
And how parents are so excited when they go back to shopping for school supplies when the school year's about to come. And it is funny, but it's a sad thing at the same time.
Yep.
But what we wanted to talk about. So, what do we do with our children in the summer so we don't end up going, oh no, what am I doing with the children?
Mm-hmm.
So, um, you know, the children have been working hard. Like they have been going through school and having routines and schedules. If you're a homeschooler, you still have had to do more work. Summer sometimes, parents take a break. We all should take a break. Absolutely, we should. But how do we maintain? Because one of the hardest things is to, once you break out of your routine, September is very tough to get back into the routine. Um, so, what do we do? Well, we're here to give you some suggestions today, but it does take some planning. So, it's worthwhile. And this is, I tutor students after school. And
Mm-hmm.
I start my tutoring sessions with, okay, let's take a look at what you have to do. How are we going to schedule that? How are we going to allot your time? So, because if you schedule things, if you plan for things, then guess what?
Mm-hmm.
The things that are important need to get done, but then you end up freeing time for yourself to have fun.
Yeah.
Everybody says we want to make memories. Do make memories, but do take care of the responsibilities and keep children responsible. We've spoken in the past about I guess chores that are age appropriate. Don't stop doing those over the summer. As a matter of fact, maybe children should take
Well,
on more chores.
this whole idea that life stops for 2 months during the summer because the kids are out of school is, I mean, that's kind of a recent phenomena.
Right, and we spoke in the past couple of shows. We've talked about the history of how our public school system started and how the calendar year actually revolved around the farmers
Mm-hmm.
and farming. And so when we started the school year from September to June, and even some, we spoke about in the past shows that some farmer kids of farming families, they actually had bigger breaks, but it wasn't a break. It was a time to work with the family. And so today we're kind of proposing to you, let's recreate that. When the children are taking a break from their studies, let's make them now responsible members of our family, of our community, our society. Let's
But
have fun and learn at the
But
same
even
time.
even as adults, I mean, you look at church attendance, and
Yes.
it tends to drop down to about half during the summer what it is normally during the year. Now, some people will, if they're vacationing elsewhere, they'll go to church where they're vacationing.
Yeah.
But a lot of people just don't bother showing up. And so, the question that we then ask ourselves, well, if, spiritually, we're just kind of disconnecting from spiritual life and from God and for everything else for 2 solid months. Let me tell you something. Psalm 121 says that he that keeps Israel neither slumbers nor sleeps. So God doesn't slumber or sleep, but neither does the devil. And so
Yeah.
while people are kind of checking out, then they're more open to attacks. And so what you have is this we've been programmed through how the calendar runs based on the school system and everything else, that where kids used to get off for the summer to help work the family
Yeah.
farm, now it's a time of leisure and we have to plan all of our vacations. I was just on the phone actually with a couple of people, and I've got this vacation plan over here and this over here, and not that we're criticizing or condemning vacations, but to spend 2 entire months not really focusing on anything productive, pursuing anything other than leisure, that really puts us at a disadvantage.
Yeah.
And I think has contributed a lot to the state of where we're at right now.
In North America, yes. And actually,
The Western world. I mean, we see it in Australia, we see it in Western Europe as well.
yes, the Western world, absolutely. And I was actually listening to WDCX, the Christian radio station, and they were actually discussing that about vacations and so forth. And they were doing a survey with people, memories, how do you make memories, taking vacations. And it turns out that actually quite a few, I think it was about 50% of people that decided they want to take a vacation, but we're still kind of focusing on and enjoying ourselves. Now it's the staycation is a new thing that we do, but they say it's partially because people can't afford them, and so another question, part of the survey, they ask how much money do people spend on vacation. They say per year. They say the average is about, I don't know if it's per year per person. It's probably they say the average is about $2,000, and they said that's low. And I'm thinking, well, it's low because a lot of people are not taking vacations because they can't afford them. But if we could, wouldn't we do more? And another consideration that we're talking about is that some people, the summer is a good time, take a vacation, but they try, especially those of us who live in Canada or the northern states where the climate gets pretty cold in the winter, we prefer to take vacations in the winter.
Yeah. I mean, why would you take a summer down to the tropics if it's 30 degrees Celsius or mid 80s? I mean, today the temperature was up around, with the humidex, it was over 100 degrees Fahrenheit.
Yes. Yeah. So here in Canada, we're
That's hot.
Just kind of like low to mid 30s Celsius.
Mm-hmm.
For Canada, that's quite unusual to be here for a long period of time. I mean, we get like even up to 40 Celsius, which is 100. I don't know what. 104 Fahrenheit. But
then keeping in mind that the heat in the Niagara region is very humid too,
yes,
because we're between two Great Lakes.
Yeah, so there are many factors for us to consider. What should we do for the summer? And I think, and it's almost counterintuitive because people say, "Oh, I want to make memories. We want to do fun things."
Mm-hmm.
But really, what we need to do is sit down and plan out our summer so that we can make time for memories, and then we can make time for moving our family forward. And I almost encourage our listeners to think of starting of summer. It's almost like, imagine yourself, you're in January and you're the start of the new year. You make some resolutions because it's kind of the end of the school year.
Mm-hmm.
And so now you have a couple of months to transition and set up for yourself for another school year.
Mm-hmm.
And so I even encourage people to set goals. Now, for the summer, we call them summer bucket lists. And everybody makes bucket lists, things they want to accomplish, they want to do
before they kick the bucket.
Before they kick them, I know. I mean, it's sometimes I when we have English class with students, they're like, "Where did that come from?" And I'm like, "I know, it makes no sense. It's just we could spend a long time, where our expressions came from." So again, we want to continue improving ourselves. We want to continue learning. We want our family to be reaching goals over the summer as well. And how much better it is when there's no school pressures, driving from this program to that program in the summer, for us to focus on those goals as a family. So summer bucket list, if it's too intimidating, because I know we do that as a family in January, write down 100 goals. It's intimidating. So I usually pull out like little templates where you have categories in, and we've started doing like the different categories of life, of our life, where we want to set.
Yep.
And so for the summer bucket list, it could be something as fun as like places to go, games to play, books to read. I don't think any of us should ever stop reading books. And if we don't have a busy schedule, this is a good time to set a time for books. You can, think of movies you want to watch. And again, let's make sure that these are movies that are edifying and they teach our children values. Because movies, yes, they're entertaining, but we can double up learning and discussing important morals or things as a family by carefully choosing the movies we want to watch. Everything we do, even the entertainment, we have to put thought into it. We shouldn't let it all just happen to us, right?
Mm-hmm.
Other things, recipes to make. I mean, this is a good time to teach your kids home economics. I've said that several times in the past. Everybody says, "Oh, school should be teaching our children to cook, to fix things," and there should be aspects of that. But really, I think the home is the best place that these things could be learned. And so this summer is a good time to do that. And if your kids complain, oh well, they'll eat baked cookies if they're done, trying out a recipe with you. They get to eat, so they'll have a reward. Experiments you can do in the summer. continue this science exploration. Actually, today we were talking about Kiwi Crates or their subscriptions. So, obviously not every parent is kind of like thinks as a teacher, oh, what should we do? There's so many homeschoolers that have blogs out there, but there are also companies nowadays that you can subscribe and they can send you a project or something of the month to do. Um, Other things, I'm just looking at just one particular template, but your summer bucket list could include all kinds of categories. What do I want to learn over the summer? This is a good time for kids to learn a skill, like either playing instruments, sport,
Hmm.
knitting, sewing, you name it, something they want to fix, crafts to make, ways to serve, and places to travel. I think we should always think of ways to serve. And right now with our pod, we are ending the school year. And at the end of the school year, I'm reading them a book called How to Behave and Why. And just remembering what kind of people do we want to be in order for others to want to be around us.
Hmm.
you
That's
know,
right.
sometimes we set goal things, oh, I want to be this, that, and the other thing. But ultimately, we want to also think that we want to create in ourselves, develop ourselves to be the people that others want to be around, appreciate, and that when we are not around, others say, hey, they really were contributing. We really miss them, right? So all of these things are, I think, done in those times when we're not busy. We're not, and the summer is one of those times where we can start setting goals. So, like I said, it sounds counterintuitive, but set goals for the summer for personal development, for skills development. As a person, reading, listening, and watching things that are going to help us. Another thing I suggest is something called I'm bored list. How many times in the summer the kids say, I'm bored, I don't know what to do? Because a lot of parents are struggling with screen time. And just, why are we
Kids,
struggling with screen time? Because kids have lost
they
imagination.
don't know what to do if they're not in front of a screen anymore. When I was growing up, we didn't have cell phones, we didn't have computers. I mean, we had TV, but that was limited.
Limited programming, yeah.
You just eventually it became the electronic babysitter for a lot of people.
Yeah.
But I remember during the summer we'd go out and play, and so we were, the apartment that we lived in. There
Yeah.
were about four or five apartments that were together, and one of the apartments had this really nice playground, so that's where
Yeah.
most of us would head. And I can remember hearing my mom shouting from the window, several hundred feet away. It's time to come in. It's 9 o'clock, 9:30. It's getting dark. It's time to commit. But you have dozens of kids out there.
You
But it
go
was a
out.
different. But it was a different time that we lived in. It was safe. You didn't worry about your kid getting snatched, or you didn't worry about
Mhm.
all the kind of craziness that they have to. Do we have overprotective parents now? Yes,
Yeah.
but at the same time, this is a crazy world we live in.
Well, but this is why we just about every time we do a show here, we overemphasize, because we can't actually overemphasize it enough, the community aspects.
Yeah.
This is why we want to start from our home and have ourselves develop personally, have our children develop. We want to create in ourselves and our children the people that the community will be safer and nicer to be in,
Yeah.
right? I've heard many quotes. We don't want to prepare our children for hostile world, but we want to raise such children that will make the world not so hostile, but a better place, right?
Hmm.
So everything is kind of counterintuitive, and many times educators and adults say, it almost seems like it's a cool thing to be cruel and to be mean to somebody. Like kindness is considered as a weakness nowadays, and what
Oh,
a better time in the
it's not
summer.
nowadays. It's always been that way.
Well, yes,
You go
throughout
back and look
history.
at Roman society or Greek society, and the biblical virtues of
Yeah,
sacrifice and putting other people before you, and mercy and grace and things like that, they were looked down upon.
yeah,
So
Well,
it's no different. It's what happens when people are not walking with God. That when they walk with Satan, because you're either with God or with Satan.
there's
Whether
only a
you
good or
acknowledge
evil choice, right?
whether you acknowledge him or not, whether you acknowledge any of them or not, the point is that you're on one side or the other. And
Yeah.
if you're not serving God, then you're serving the devil, which could be yourself. Because if you serve yourself, then you're serving the devil, whose sole objective is to get people away from God. And if you look at the values of the world, its strength is individualism. It is cruelty. I mean, you look at what's going on in the Middle East with these terrorist groups and things like that, or you look what's going on in Russia, Ukraine, all over the world. Everywhere you see an absence of God, you see those things happening. And so what we have is that, as the Apostle Paul also warned us, he said that in the latter times, he's writing to Timothy, it's the last two epistles that he wrote, and that in the latter times, he says, love will grow cold, men will become lovers of selves, and these of all the manifestations you're going to see, in that there'll be disobedient to parents and murderers and all these. Well, all you have to do is look at the news.
Right.
This is what we're dealing with.
Yeah, and like you said, it's always been, but it's a battle, right, between good and evil.
Yeah.
But and this is one thing we talked in our pod today about the fact that we have to do the right thing no matter what, no matter how others try to influence us to do what they say is right. Especially when it contradicts God's word. No matter what, we have to do the right thing. And
well, even telling the truth now is a punishable offense. We have people going to jail who are blowing the whistle on corruption within companies, within government, and you're not allowed to speak that. And so, it's been said that the first casualty in war is the truth.
absolutely, and so that's why we are here to say summertime is a good time to not only create memories but to build ourselves. This is a good time. So when we come back into the fall, with all the scheduling starting again, we walk in with a better mindset rather than the mindset I forgot everything. Now I gotta, like uphill battle kind of thing.
Yeah.
And so I found there is a website called Hip Homeschooling, and they even suggest that for the summer you have a jar. So they have a template where you cut pieces of paper, and each. So to avoid the battles, because you and I have consulted before with psychiatrists who would say, how do you resolve issues? Because conflict resolution at home, one thing that increases at home is conflicts when you're at home all day with each other and spend more time together. So one of the solutions is create a jar where you pre-write different activities that are obviously parent approved and so forth that the kids can do when they're bored. So the moment they say they're bored, they can draw a paper out of the jar, and then whatever is on that paper, that's what they do. It's a pre-agreed thing that you're going to do. And that's the thing. If we are proactive, summer doesn't have to be disaster. and so just some of the things is so these kind of suggestions not only help children practice skills, but they also should include things that creating memories. So one of the suggestions is building a fort, clean the bathroom. Hey, you're bored. There's things to do that the whole family will benefit. Pretend you're on a safari. So some are kind of things that are responsibility things, but some are fine. So let's just balance the fun and the responsibility. Read a book, okay? And also, parents, you can find so many templates for to keep track of the books. Libraries have reading programs. Our son's been signed several years in a row, and they would give prizes away for the kids who read the most. They report their reading. So if the kids they don't want to keep track of their own thing, there's library programs where they can participate. And then at the end of summer, they have celebration. They get prizes. Kids love prizes. They would do anything for prizes.
Yeah.
So would we as adults, right?
If someone offered me a prize for reading the most books, I'd probably be a little more incentivized to.
Well, you're competitive anyway, but that's what I'm saying. If your
Well,
kids,
it's true. But most people are competitive when it comes to stuff like that.
when it comes to prizes, all of a sudden we all become competitive, no matter what your personality is, right?
Exactly.
It depends, right? So reading a book. So have I guess writing journals and bowling is one of the things, and dust the living room. I mean, it's so many things. So play the piano, whatever your family does, whatever activities that need to be done around your house, you can modify it. Just put them on pieces of paper, put them in a jar, and the agreement is okay. The moment you find you're bored, we're gonna get you something to do.
Mm-hmm.
So there's different ways to go about it. There's all kinds of lists. Again, many times I say that there's a website called the Big Life Journal,
Mm-hmm.
biglifejournal.com. You can get so many suggestions. Again, it does take some time for the parents to sit down and decide what are we going to do, but it's worth it. It's worth to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Another thing is, I know several years ago I found a template for our son because he loves routines.
Mm-hmm.
And so for every morning when he wakes up, because the one thing that really destroys kind of the morale over the summer is that the loss of routines.
Mm-hmm.
And so because he likes routines throughout the summer, I had a list that says these are the things you need to do during the day before you get your screen time or downtime.
Well, yeah, exactly.
And so they all included things they have to do anyway.
Mm-hmm.
But because he likes checklists, that was like magic for him. Because when he checked, you know what happens? The reason these lists are also being put together, because what happens to adults when they check things off the list? There's this sense of satisfaction. You feel sense of accomplishment. I tell you, being planned, scheduled, and having things kind of structured over the summer is going to not only continue the routine, but it's going to give your children a sense of accomplishment that they've done things. That's how memories are made when
Mm-hmm.
you create the time for things and when you plan to do things. And so
Well, and I can remember I was doing this online course, and it's all about, in essence, training the brain to do certain things.
yeah,
And the one thing that this guy and many others that I've heard have spoken about is that start off the day by making your bed.
yeah,
And the reason is because you want to start off with a win. You want to start
yeah,
anytime we get something accomplished. It's a sense of satisfaction. We feel like we've made progress, and the human mind, the human soul was designed to accomplish things. And also, and we just got back from an absolutely fantastic convention this weekend where we were
leadership
part
convention.
of
Yes.
a leadership business we're with, and listening to a lot of the talks, and a lot of the talks were about overcoming. Because
Yeah.
one of the things that the CEO was saying in one of his talks was that we are designed to overcome. If things come too easy, this is one of the problems with a lot of youth today and young adults, and this is why you have this craziness that's going on in the university campuses, is that everything is handed to them. And we
Yeah.
have been conditioned and taught and programmed to think that, well, you get a reward for just participating.
Yeah.
And I was watching this one video of this blue-haired girl who was her mother was essentially kicking her out of the house and saying, "You know what? You're mailing it in. You're slacking, and you got 2 weeks to get it." Well, this girl was, and she's in her like early 20s, and she is pitching a fit. She's filming herself doing this, and then posting it on TikTok as if she's trying to gain sympathy by saying that she's got this disorder and that disability, and it's all about the victimhood,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
and that destroys the human soul.
Yeah.
Because when who do we admire most? It's the people who do extraordinary things. You look at a guy like Elon Musk, and we can say Elon Musk was lucky. You don't make $200 billion to be
Mhm.
lucky. You know how you get lucky? You win a lottery, and then you're usually broke within 5 years.
Right, but luck doesn't last for a long time because
Luck
even if you
teaches you
get
nothing.
even if you get a freebie, because if you don't have the skills and
Most lottery winners are broke. But if you look
yeah.
at it, Elon Musk, you know why Elon Musk is? I mean, first of all, the guy's brilliant, but second of all, he works 100 hours a week. He can't keep a relationship.
Well,
But
and that's the thing, their sacrifices. And this is
yeah,
why I
for sure.
started the show talking like you have to sit down as a family to see what's the goal. I had a friend in university. She would say, "This is the summer of this," and
Yeah.
she would dedicate the summer of developing herself in certain
So,
area.
so my point is
Yeah.
that unless we are striving towards something and overcoming obstacles, and we have to literally write down what the goal is and visualize it and repeat it to ourselves. Because we talked about this a number of weeks back about engaging the subconscious mind. That the subconscious mind is what rules our lives because it's millions of times as big as the conscious mind.
Yeah.
And so when we have a picture of something, with the I guess it was The Secret. It was that book that was written, and very new agey, and there's a lot of stuff that you want to be careful of. But one of the things that it said is that thoughts are things, and thoughts actually do get to manifest themselves.
Well, you know how well because that's the other quote that you and I use. Like our thoughts create, they are
Our actions,
they create our actions, and the actions create our habits.
Our habits create our character, and our character creates our destiny.
Yes.
And so
they are things.
So if we're not trying to overcome something, so making a checklist, and I've kind of gotten away from that.
So guess what? We're doing the show for us just as much for you.
So tell me to make my list. So what I would do is I would sit down in the morning. I would do my Bible devotions, do my prayers, and then what I would do is I would sit down and I would say, okay, what are the things that I want to take care of today? Because honestly, I could have 10,000 things that I could be doing on any day. I could be pursuing this and that, and you get to the end of the day, and you find out that what you really haven't accomplished all that long.
Well, and that's the thing. I think we need to start with a bigger goal, like more like a life goal, so that one thing that we are learned in this leadership conference was that then the activities you choose to do for the day, they have to line up with that big goal and vision that you have. And if they don't, then you have to sort them out because we could be busy doing all kinds of stuff.
What is you ask someone how they're doing, and what is the most common answer you get? Well, I'm busy. Okay, but that doesn't mean you're productive. That doesn't mean you're accomplishing anything. What is the Henry David Thoreau said that being busy isn't anything. So too are the ants. The ants are busy, and as a matter of fact, they usually accomplish a lot more than we do. The question is what are we busy with? Yeah. Are we busy pursuing our goals? Are we doing the activities that are necessary? So what we have to do is we have to define what the goal is, and then we have to kind of break it down. So what's the vision? What's the objective? And then you have to kind of break down the steps. And this is what you're really good at, is kind of like, okay, so that's where we're headed. What do we need to do to get there?
In order to get there, you got to break it down, because then it's overwhelming. Because I know you're the big visionary, and people around you get overwhelmed. I did when I first met you, but then I learned, hey, it's good to have the visionary beside you, and then you break it down. It's okay. Don't get overwhelmed and stop.
Most people have no idea where they're going, and they're just kind of bumping through life. And I think it was Benjamin Franklin said that most men die at 25, and then they just wait until they're 65 to be buried or something like that. Yeah. And so the thing is that you have to have the vision caster. You have to have someone who says, that there's the promised land. We need a Moses. We need someone to say that that's where we're headed. But then you need the team behind you to start breaking it down. And, through all of that, we can say, okay, so if this is the goal, and this is what they teach in sales too. So, if any of you are in sales who are watching this, this is kind of how you do it. You say, so what's the goal? I want to earn, I want to have $2 million in sales this year that will bring me $100,000 in income, whatever. Okay, so now we got to break down the activity. How many clients do I need in order to accomplish $2 million in sales? Yeah. And what would the average be? How many phone calls do I have to make on a daily and weekly basis in order to achieve that many clients? So you break it down further and further, and then once you've got the activity that you that you have needed, then you can start producing that. And every day you say, okay, so when I was writing my book, so, I've got my book here that I wrote a couple of years ago, The Red Mark on God's Forehead. And I remember, for a long time, I was just kind of bumping along, and I wasn't really engaged, and I wasn't being productive in writing it. And I knew that God wanted me to write it, but I was procrastinating at the same time, until finally one day he kind of slapped me on the head and said, "Are you going to write my book?"
Yeah.
And so what I had to do then is I had my whiteboard that was right over my desk, and I said, okay, what is my objective today? How many pages am I going to be writing today? And I would just work until my goal was finished. Now, did I hit the goal every single? No. Sometimes I got, caught up where it would take me an hour or two to research this one paragraph that I was working on. But the point is that the only way I got that book done was because I set daily goals for myself to achieve.
And stick to them.
Because
there's a caution. You can set goals, but if you don't stick to them, if you don't get your schedule or whatever, then it doesn't work. And that's what I wanted to kind of talk about. Is one of the things is that and we've talked about that in past shows about setting SMART goals. Mm-hmm. And there are a lot of, again, resources available for families to go over with their children what are SMART goals, because I found working with children many times, I ask them, let's set a goal about, what you want to accomplish at home. Mm-hmm. I mean, this one student I'm tutoring, and he's stuck.
Yeah.
He's like, I've done just about everything I've wanting to do. Really, there's no new ideas. And I've talked to many young people nowadays. It's almost like setting goals is something foreign to them. What is that? And I think what a better time in the summer to practice that with your family. And that's why I'm offering suggestions and categories and templates for you if that's too intimidating. So we'll break down SMART goals, the steps, and all these things. And so if putting a schedule for the summer is intimidating, you could do fun things like each day of the week could have a different theme. Let's say for Monday, and usually like if people choose cutesy things, if Monday starts with M, the theme of the day starts with M. But let's say, I have as one sample here, make it Monday. So craft projects, something from the dollar store, nothing too expensive. But again, we have to use our creativity. That's one thing we are created to be creative, because God is a creator. So we are made in his image, and we are creative. Mm-hmm. And children are creative in their own way. So that's where I believe parents know their children the best. So you provide them with the opportunities and the projects on Mondays, let's say, to do that. On Tuesdays is Learning Tuesdays. That's where you could go visit your library. Or you could do a summer workbook. I know my son is like, no, because, there's different workbooks for transitioning from one grade to another. So you can do a little bit of skill, keeping up your skills. This summer, at the end of the summer in August, I've actually enrolled him in a boot camp. Where go tutoring, we're putting together a boot camp for kids who are transitioning from grade 8 to high school, because especially the way kind of everybody's all over the place, the 2 years of COVID really made kids lose a lot of foundational skills, and so now
it's like 3 actually.
3 years, and now boot camps, those boot camps are important. So I enrolled our son because he's been homeschooled. I also want to see how he's going to do with other kids who are being, being schooled in public schools.
Yeah.
For me, it's actually a fun experiment. I'm doing that, but again, it's it's a good thing to do. Learning should never stop. Wednesdays you could do water Wednesdays, so you could go splash pads. Things are available. Mm-hmm. For Thursday, take a trip. This is a good time to, if there's a destination on your list you want to visit, that's a good day to do it.
Yep.
Foodie Fridays, that's when you try your the recipe that you want to do.
Culinary skills.
Absolutely, but how and as you're planning these things with your children, they're learning planning skills, because that's one thing. I work with even college students who have no idea how to manage their time. Just things come at them and they react, oh, I have to take care of this, but this other thing is more of a priority. Okay. So you know what I mean? Like do this together.
Time management is it's like anything else. It's a skill, and it's a skill that has to be learned. But then you need someone who's going to teach you those principles. And one of the problems, and we can't emphasize this enough, is that the public school system now is not in the business of training people to be productive members of society. What it's training them to be is indoctrinated into a certain agenda that is not for their benefit.
Everything's planned and pre-programmed for you. So
Well, not only that, but I mean, what they're teaching them is this whole victimhood thing. I mean, why did you have this blue-haired girl with piercings all over her face saying that she's a boy and that she's a victim and that she's got this disability when she didn't?
I was going to comment that if you're not in charge of your life, if you don't have, like, you know what I mean? If you're not responsible for the things in your life, then you're a victim because you have no say in your own life. It just happens to you.
And this is what the government has been doing to us. It is training us in a victim mindset and a victim mentality. So it's learned helplessness. And so when you have protests against certain abuses of power, which we've seen governments all over the world do, and at the moment you have protests, they bring out the police or the military, even, which we saw
Canada's like that now.
The trucker convoy. What it's teaching you is that don't you dare raise your fist against the powers that be, which is us. And even though we have a democracy, which is a complete farce, because what we do is we essentially elect a dictator every 4 years, and they're chosen too, by the way. We don't really have true choice. But what happens is that then they tell us is that no, you serve us, we don't serve you, and yet they're still called public servants.
Yeah.
So we're not teaching people to be independent thinkers. We're not teaching them to overcome. What we're teaching them to do is submit to the powers that be. And so what we have to do as parents and what we have to do as communities is we have to take control of that. That's why we're saying you need to pull your kids out of school. Don't send them to university and get them programmed to be, a Marxist. Because what does Marxism teach? It's totalitarianism, and that you need to submit to the government. You need to teach your kids time management. You need to teach your kids to be responsible. And here's the thing that, if someone starts complaining, it's so hard and I'm a victim and everything else, and, you got to ask, well, don't you want to be responsible? And most people's initial response is, no, I don't. But then if you're not responsible, as you said,
in charge of your life,
you have no control then.
Yeah.
And so you have no power to fix it.
Right.
If I'm responsible, then I can change something. If you want something to change in your life, you need to change something in your life.
Well, and like again, in School Pods Canada, we believe that parents are the first educator. The summer is the time that you have the opportunity to instill your values in your children.
Yeah,
this is the
100%.
time, because we've talked about the history of public education, and we've talked about it was created to prepare children for whatever the age is. Now it's the information age. Before it was the industrial age. So keep planning. So Saturdays, I stopped at Friday here. Saturdays, what you could do, Super Saturdays. This is when you do things as a child. For us, is the Shabbat, and for those who observe the Shabbat, this is a time. But even here, this is written by somebody who doesn't observe the Shabbat. They say this is the day to do something as a family. They suggest amusement parks, lake days, whatever attractions to go visit. We do it more of a day to focus on God. But again, Saturday is a good day to instill the values in your children. And we talk to a lot of people who were kind of Christians, going to church on a Sunday, and all of a sudden they realize, well, Shabbat refers to the Saturday, so they start observing the Saturday. But then, they want to do it all right, and they become all strict with their kids, and then say, it's not fun to do that with our kids. It could be fun with your kids.
Listen, spending time with God should be a pleasurable experience.
But the adults have to learn how to do it. I know what we say should be, but, people
No, but I'm talking about for the whole family.
Yeah.
And if it, and this is,
But that's what I'm saying. Before it becomes fun for the kids, it has to become fun for the adults. The example.
And you look at a lot of what the battles that Yeshua had in in his life. So we see it recorded in the gospel. A lot of it had to do with what the Pharisees, the religious leaders, and what he said you could do on the Sabbath.
Yeah.
And his most, I think, telling statement that he made was the Sabbath was made for man, not man made for the Sabbath. So we're not there to serve the Sabbath and be in bondage to it. The Sabbath was actually given, and I have a whole chapter on the theology of the Sabbath here in my book in chapter 6, in Saturday versus Sunday, that the Sabbath was designed for us to get rest and to spend time with God and to enjoy it. But if you're all about the do's and the don'ts of what you can do and you can't do, then, and I've spoken about this in a number of different occasions, but I remember there was this Facebook group, and this one lady who had recently come to the understanding that she needs to keep the Sabbath. Well, something had spilled in her hallway or something like that.
Right.
And she was about to start cleaning it up, and then she repented to God and said, "Oh, I'm sorry," and left it. And I said, "Why would you aggravate yourself by leaving that, and you have to walk around the schmutz all day long? Clean it up." Cleaning up a mess isn't work. If we had our cat decided to puke in a box today, so if it was the Sabbath, I'm not. I got to walk and sit. I got to watch
smell the puke or whatever,
and walk around that thing and see, all day
it's a family
long.
show. We talk about things that happen in
No,
families.
but that's silliness. And why would God do that? That's not the intent of God. God wants us to relax. He wants us to enjoy ourselves. And so, we don't have a congregation right now, although that is eventually the desire to establish.
Reach communities, so we want there to be and should be a community.
So, but
everybody.
I do have an online ministry, and you can catch it right here on Land Network, actually, 12 o'clock noon Eastern Standard Time, where I broadcast the message. But then what we do is we have lunch, we relax after. But what happens Saturday evening? We have movie night.
It's a family movie night.
It's usually pizza, and then we have a movie, and then I make popcorn, and then Sunday we wake up with sore tummies. But it's fun for us.
But we do it homemade pizza, so that's part of the routine.
Exactly.
And so.
And now Yossi is starting to be trained. He's got to get out the ingredients and stuff like that. And
so summer and weekends and the time you get with your children, if you send them out, like if you homeschool them, you're with them all the time. But make it a special time. To teach them those skills, to teach them how they need to think. Yep. And that's what life skills are. And so see summer as a opportunity to build relationships with your children. And so I have even a top 10 ways how to build relationships with your children. That would spark some of the ideas that you would want to include in your summer. For example, number 1 is talk to them about non-school related subjects. Mm-hmm. Wonderful, because you know what? Sometimes children dread the dinner conversation. So how was school today? And kids have stopped answering that question.
What'd you do today?
Stuff, they stopped answering it. But why is that? Because until you make that connection, school is something that is going on anyway. Ask them about what they're passionate about, because school is not always something they're passionate about. Okay, let's put it that way. It's hard work. So number 1 is talk to them about non-school related subjects. Number 2, let them teach you about their interests. So that's why you involve your children in planning your summer together. This is an opportunity for them to voice what their interests are, for you to find out more. And they change. I mean, our son would change like the food taste. That's why I constantly look for new recipes, because what he eats changes. Never mind his interests. He wanted to be a geologist at some point. Now he wants to be programmer. Things change with time as he's learning new skills.
You used to have your menu planned for the week, and he would check what it says. Well, I want to see what's on the menu so I can not.
So I can change it. Yeah. But you know what? Again, menu planning too. It's and be flexible, obviously. So we had to change our food sometimes, but he made it a game to change the menu. But then he's thinking, okay, so what should I do instead? So hey, that's like another way to get him to do some menu planning by changing my menu. That's fine by me. Number 3, remember things about their lives. Just take some time. I mean, okay, so we're getting ready to move, so we're sorting through things. We're having, there's some toys we kept from his, toddlerhood, and take the time to just do that. Look through family photographs. Share. Sit by. I want a fire pit. Sit by a campfire.
So you're dream building. You're visualizing what you want. You're engaging the subconscious mind.
I want to get myself a fire pit, and that's it. Because then that would be an opportunity to sit around and chat about family memories. So share about your own life is another way. Kids want to know, who we are. And our life should be such that we should be able to share with our kids what we do on a daily basis. And if not, then we got to rethink that. Number 5, engage in activities with them. How much our son loves when you drop everything and you get the baseball glove and you go to the park to practice your catching and throwing.
And hurt his fingers.
Well, if you don't practice it, it will hurt because it's not very good at first. Number 6, tell hilarious and even embarrassing stories. That's part of our son loves telling jokes. Oh my goodness, but laughing together. That's a bonding experience. Number 7, share inspirational stories from your life. So you don't have to just read we admire other people who have accomplished much, and we should learn their stories, but we have a lot in our lives that we need to reflect on, and that's how we build self-esteem, and our kids, reminding them of accomplishments that they've had. Do crazy things together. Sometimes just take risks, do something unusual that is obviously okay with the law and everything, but do something crazy. Our son's trying to dare me now to go to Canada's Wonderland, to go on certain roller coasters because he knows I'm not really into it. So do stuff like that, it's fun.
You have to go on the pre-lip check.
Yeah. And number 9, use the interest in your lessons and activities. So, and this is what I do as a teacher for lesson plans. I can teach grammar, I can teach math skills to kids by incorporating what they're interested in. We could do superhero math if kids, are into superheroes. And number 10, apologize when you mess up. What was the 3 most difficult things to say in life? I'm sorry. I was wrong. In Worcestershire sauce?
Worcestershire sauce.
Okay. So just so you can remember, practice real living with your children. Okay? That's what we encourage you to do this summer together as a family.
That's right. So the summer doesn't have to be a time where you're wondering what to do. It is, and it doesn't have to be. We want to be engaged with our kids to make sure that they're still progressing, that they're still growing. We don't want them to check out.
Yeah.
As what was it, Timothy Leary said so many years ago, that you want them engaged and you want them to get into the new school year in a frame of mind where they're excited about the new learning instead of having to go from 2 months of not doing anything.
If learning continues through the summer, September is not going to be a pain.
Yeah.
And if September is pain-free, call Schoolbots Canada. Email us through our website, schoolbotscanada.com, and we'll be happy to talk to you about how to make even the school year fun. But in the meantime, happy planning for your summer and creating memories together.
Exactly. So we've come to the end of our hour. We thank everybody for joining us once again, and we will look forward to seeing you next time right here on Lamb Video Network. Check the local programming for all the other amazing broadcasts that are here. And if we don't see you again, have a great summer.
Yes, so learn something and smarten up.
All right. Have a great week, everybody.
Bye-bye.
If you missed today's show or want to watch it again, or want to tell someone where they can watch this episode, go to lamnetwork.tv, where you can find this show and all the other live Lamb Show archives in the on-demand section of the website. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to tell someone about the Messianic Lamb Network. richly blessed to bring you what we believe is the fullest, most diverse, yet up-to-date progressive teachings, discussions, and prayer programming you can find anywhere on this planet. Be sure to take a tour of the lambnetwork.tv website. I'm Darryl Weinberg, thanking you for joining us on the Messianic Lamb Video Network.